What's up, everybody? Coach Mills here, coming at you with a fucking A, I got the hiccups. So after gargling some bleach, I'm back, hiccup free, and I wanted to talk to you about how to go pro step by step. This was a comment that was placed on our previous video that asked, how can you go pro step by step? What do you need to do? What is required of you if you want to take Valorant to the next level and go pro? Let's break it all down. But go to the GameLeap website right now for everything you possibly need: in-depth VOD reviews, breakdown, macro, everything you need to dominate in Valorant. Go check it out right now down below. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. All right, so there's 3 simple steps to becoming a pro. You got to click head, step 1. You got to step 2, hit Radiant, and you got to step 3, make money, right? That's as simple as it is. But honestly, it's not simple at all. In fact, becoming a pro at anything takes a lot of hard work and dedication. Now let's start from basic level and start going into everything that you need if you're legitimately wanting to chase that path to pro. What does someone need to go through in order to become a coveted pro esports Valorant gamer? Now, the first thing, of course, you need to be gaining rank and skill. There's a second part of that, which is gaining teamwork and cohesion. And a third part of that, which is gaining scrim experience. Now, the first thing that gain that rank and skill, typically one of the best ways for you to get onto a legitimate team, a legitimate roster, is at the very minimum, you need to be immortal rank, but typically being Radiant is gonna get you way more opportunities. Now, the thing is, you got to understand that the ranked system is a sorting ladder, and they're only going to pick from the best of the best. And when there are even Radiant players that are not good enough to be pro, that means that they're very rarely going to pick anyone outside of that. Now, your rank might not actually matter as much as it seems to be a pro player, but I'm going to talk about that in a little while. Now, of course, you need to be gaining that teamwork and cohesion. This is going to be very important because when you're a pro player, you're not playing the ranked ladder solo by yourself. You're playing with the team, and you're trying to play off teammates with a perfect amount of communication, a understanding of the large scale strategies at hand, and how well you perform when everyone around you is actually doing their job correctly. I know, a really profound concept, but oftentimes, and this doesn't apply just to Valorant, the game feels so much different when you have all that teamwork and cohesion in place. Now, the third thing, of course, is gaining scrim experience. This kind of goes hand in hand with that teamwork cohesion. Having the scrim experience is something that you can only learn while scrimming against other coordinated teams with a coordinated team yourself. The communication, the calling, the information, the no wasted comms, everything from start to finish is something that you have to experience, and it's something that if you want to take the game seriously and become a pro player, it's something that you should start doing more and more. Now, last up, after you have all these things, you got to participate in open qualifiers, because as we'll get to at the end, especially early on in a player's career when they're trying to become pro or kind of bridge that gap between being like a tier 4 or tier 3 player to a pro player on like a legitimate roster, it's all about the resume and it's all about the connections you make. Resume as in your finishes in big tournaments, open qualifiers that anyone can participate in, and the connections you make by playing in those things, the connection you make by meeting people that have connections to even more teams and more tryouts. We'll talk about that more and break all that down in a second. Now, the first thing that you need to do that is incredibly freaking important when you're trying to make yourself a pro or climb that path to pro, or even if you're in the lower ranks still playing on a team or whatever, but you really want to take Valorant seriously, you need to hold yourself to a high standard. I can't tell you how many times players will be playing on a team where there's people that lied about their rank when they got on that team. No one takes it seriously. People are constantly skipping practice, and you can't get legitimate scrims consistently, and you're still just on that team because you don't want to go through the hassle of going to another team, or you don't want to let the people that you're playing with down. To me, that is just a complete waste of your time. If you're not getting the most you possibly can get out of a team, go move on, find another one every single time. Now, here's something that's also incredibly important. You need to be treating it professionally. I know Valorant is a game and you often play it with your buddies and it's often fun, but at the end of the day, if you want Valorant to be your job, you need to be treating it professionally like it is a job. You think a team wants someone who is going to break down, who's going to act like a baby, who's going to make just immature jokes all the time. No, that's not really what a team wants. They want you to be consistent. They want you to take it seriously. No sleeping through alarms, no missing practice, things like that are basically gonna just completely disqualify you for not even just your own roster, but ever getting recommendations or building those connections that I think is so damn important for every single person who wants to take this game seriously. Now, speaking of connections, reaching out and making connections is one of the most important things you can do. And this is filling in for teams. You can fill in for teams often of your rank. If you are Immortal or Radiant, you can often fill in for a roster when they have someone missing for whatever reason. They are often looking for people to fill in those spaces, even if maybe you're not qualified. They're just looking for someone at the last minute. But if you fill in and perform well, they're gonna have you at the forefront of their mind if they ever are looking for tryouts, even if you don't have the history of the resume to back up your legitimacy in those tryouts. Now, also, you need to try out for as many teams as possible. Of course, try to find that perfect fit and really don't settle. And then make friends with everyone you can. You want people to remember you as someone that they like to play with and that it made their job easier. They won more with you on their team. Pretty obvious stuff, but the better positive influence and positive vibes that you put out, the more likely you're going to be getting those connections later on, and people are going to be wanting to, you know, suggest you and have you on their team or their org or roster or whatever. Now, what does a team typically look for in a player? Not just rank is what people look for. I know some people are just trying to grind up to Immortal and Radiant, but there's a lot of other things that actually matter when an org or a team is looking to pick up a player, even if we're talking about tier 3 or tier 2, not the highest tier. I'm not talking about Sentinels or anything like that. I'm talking about just smaller orgs that are looking to invest in players and potentially make a way for themselves in Valorant by investing in a roster. Okay, what are they looking for? What is that org looking for? The first thing that is very important is coachability. No ego. Just because you have grinded the game a lot and you think you know a lot about the game and you're at high rank, that doesn't mean you can have an ego about being coached, especially when you're talking about the macro. You need to be on the same page as your team, and if you have a personality where you're uncoachable, you don't take advice, you don't take any leadership from your team, you don't listen to anybody, no one's gonna wanna work with you, no one's gonna wanna have you, and no team is gonna wanna have you on their team. Confidence is good though, but the confidence can't come without, you know, self-reflection and willingness to take in input. That's very important. Professionalism, we talked about that. Likability, very important. Surprisingly, I know this is one that is not the easiest thing to do, right? It's hard to be likable. I understand that, but really, being liked is like a freaking hack. I'm not gonna lie. Consistency and drive and ambition, very important. Consistently showing up, consistently putting in the work, and having that drive and ambition to scrim with the team, still grind ranked, take the game seriously, practice your mechanical skill, practice and look at VOD reviews. All that is gonna come from drive and ambition. Because here's the thing, at a certain point when you're trying to chase the path to pro in any game, but Valorant in particular as well, it's gonna stop being fun. It's honestly not gonna be just a fun time playing. I mean, Valorant's not really that fun to play anyways, to be honest. No, I'm just kidding, it's fun. But honestly, it's going to be work, right? Playing the game and like playing games, watching your VOD review, looking at your mistakes, writing them down, correcting them every single day, that becomes tedious. And unless you have some sort of drive and ambition to do things above just climbing the ladder, you're never gonna make it. You need a drive to go pro, you need to reach for the stars, and you need to make sure that you have that ambition to go incredibly far, and it's not gonna just leave you out of nowhere one day. And then the last thing, of course, teams look for results, but I think the other stuff is way more important to get down, and if you have all that stuff down, you're probably gonna get the results with enough hard work. Now, there's a lot of things that you individually can have that can be the difference to you getting opportunities and not, and it's not just your rank. The first thing is in-game leader. Being an in-game leader is someone who makes all the calls, very vocal, talking to your teammates, making sure the information is being transferred, and talking about the game plan, even if it's something that your coach went over, just talking about what you're gonna be doing over the course of the round, and making sure that everyone on your team is in the exact same page with calls and information and strategy. That's an in-game leader, but it requires several things. It requires you to be able to still perform in-game while still thinking about the game and being actively vocal. Shazam does this and he's a freaking god. I consider him the best player in the world, but this is not easy. Every single time you take your mind off of just your pure mechanics and your pure in-game action, you're gonna be losing some of that in translation when you're trying to be an in-game leader. But if you can still in-game lead without being a complete bot, that's a huge pickup. And a good in-game leader versus a bad one could be the difference between a roster of cracked people popping off or just scrubbing out in any given tournament. Of course, things like flexibility is an amazing thing. The more flexible you are, that can definitely give you opportunities. However, you don't want to be flexible to the point where you're really not that good at all the things you're flexible to. We've talked about that before, and that still applies at the highest level when you're trying to be on a team. But sometimes a team will want to be like, hey, we'll pick you up, but you have to play like these 3 characters you don't play. That could be really bad for your development as a player, especially if this isn't like an actual real opportunity. If it's something that is just like an org, you're not getting paid, you're not getting any resources, doing this could really take you off of the characters you've been grinding and then set you up to grind other things only for that roster to fall apart, and then you wasted all your time and you haven't gotten any better at the characters you want to actually main. Now, something that you need to understand is that some roles will be more difficult than others, and it's typically going to be most to least popular. And I'm talking about difficulty to find a roster. For example, the most popular is going to be duelists, right? Jet and Reyna in particular. And the thing is, it's very difficult to differentiate yourself from the pack when it comes to these. Basically, in any given tryout, you have to consistently outperform the people you're scrimming against every single time on these. It's like super high pressure, because if you go into a scrim, right, or tryout scrim, and the enemy Jet just shits on you, even if that Jet is a freaking god, like top 10 NA, it doesn't matter because you look like trash in the head-to-head matchup. It's a lot of pressure in that way, and it's gonna be something that is like a constant litmus test where you have to constantly prove yourself over and over again, and there's always a duelist waiting to take your spot at a moment's notice. And that's why some of that other stuff that I talked about, the professionalism, likability, consistency, drive, and no ego, coachability, all that stuff is gonna matter a lot, because you gotta really differentiate yourself for more than just your in-game actions a lot of times, and at the same time still prove yourself over and over again. Now, there are going to be some roles that are going to be easier for you to reach a little bit up in average rank or average team skill or level, and it's when you're playing characters that are either hard to play and require specialization or aren't as popular. This can be even amplified to a higher degree if you play a character that hasn't been meta for that long but is all of a sudden meta. Like a lot of scrim teams I know right now in like Immortal and Low Radiant are looking for Viper players because Viper just got really good and they need a Viper player. And sure, sometimes Omen players could fill and flex to it, but that's not always the case. And if someone was already really good at Viper or was willing to put in the time and effort to learn everything they needed to, like the lineups and everything right off the bat, right when Viper became meta, then a team would be far more likely to sign said person because there just aren't enough Vipers available for other teams that need them. Now, of course, if you're a Radiant player and you have connections, you want to be trying out for any tier 2 to tier 3 rosters you possibly can. But here's the truth, and this is a big reality in any given tier 4, tier 3, tier 2 scene. The gap between paid and unpaid in an organization is gigantic. There's a whole bunch of people that are willing to make orgs just like they're making Discord orgs and they're just running it with people power, right? But an org that actually has the ability to pay their players, that is an entirely different animal and incredibly rare, if I'm being honest. Now, that being said, some orgs will provide you with a lot of other resources like coaching. They'll have, you know, people that do some type of video editing and different things like that. And sometimes those resources are going to be worth it for you to develop yourself while you're part of that org. But of course, being paid is the goal for many for obvious reasons, especially when they're really trying to show the world that they can do it, show their family that they can do it, and legitimize them to keep chasing this dream or keep chasing the path to pro. Now, here's the thing though, many of the tryouts for legitimate rosters, even orgs that are just entering Valorant, big orgs, you need connections to receive a lot of these tryouts. Most of them are not going to be open invite. This is why connections matter so much, even at the highest rank, because ranked connections, people you meet, people in power with orgs and decision making, and simply popping off in players' game on stream or climbing very high in the ladder of rating, you know, top 20, top 10, that's a way to bring attention to your name. On top of that, building up consistency to your regime, grinding, scrims, VOD review, good rest, very important just to go through the motions, and just, you're going to be improving at the fastest rate if you do this, and you're going to set yourself up for healthy habits to actually enable you into your career, because you don't want to like barely make it on a team by getting no sleep, chugging caffeine all day, every day, and then you get there and then your body just breaks down on you. You don't perform when you need to perform, and everything just falls apart because you're not taking care of yourself and you don't have an actual schedule. Now, here's the thing, and this is the big truth that everyone needs to understand. I don't care if you're just trying to become a pro player and you're in low rank, or if you're already in high rank trying to become a pro. There's a certain amount of RNG in becoming a pro, random. There's a certain amount of luck in becoming a pro player. This is why I would highly suggest those of you who are interested and seriously interested and dedicated, creating content in your downtime. When you have free time, create content, whether that's guides, whether that's funny videos, whether that's anything that is content, bringing your brand out. There's a lot of people that do this all over the place. People like Governor, people like Noted. There are people that create content because there is far less RNG with content. It's also gonna, one, extend your timetable because you could potentially make money, and that's gonna allow you to be independent and grind the game more, because at a certain point, if you get kicked out of your parents' house, if you have real world to deal with, you're not gonna be able to chase that path to pro. Even if you're close, you're not paying the bills. A lot of times that's gonna cut your timetable short, and it's gonna give you a lot more flexibility down the road if you end up not wanting to become a pro and just want to become a content creator. Being a content creator is consistent, and it's not RNG, I promise you. And if you think it takes a lot of time, it doesn't, man. For like a month, I posted like 3 to 4 TikToks a week and reposted those to shorts on YouTube. And I got 50,000 follows on TikTok, 3 million views, and on YouTube, I got like 1 million views. And this is for Halo content, Halo lore content that I don't even do. I was just trying to figure it all out in anticipation for Halo down the line. And yeah, it's super easy. It took no time. I recorded and edited videos myself in like an hour. So like that's 3 hours a week developing a platform. And if you do this with Valorant, you're gonna give yourself so much flexibility. You're gonna be able to get your name out there. I would highly suggest doing it. It's a lot less RNG. And if you have any questions about that, or just want me to make an entire video about this concept, I'll definitely do that. Just let me know down below. And I hope that this helped you understand start to finish what it takes to become a pro player and some of the problems that can happen when trying to climb the path to pro. But go to the GameLeap website right now for high quality in-depth guides, tips and tricks, VOD reviews. We have in-depth VOD reviews by a top 100 Radiant players, so go check it out right now down below. Thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video. I love your faces, and I'll see you next time.